So I want you to think with me this morning about the scariest place that you've ever been. For me, sometimes it's opening the bag of wonders because you never know what's going to be there. But seriously, think with me about the scariest place that you've ever been. Maybe for those of us who are afraid of heights, maybe it was a mountain, or it was being strapped to someone as they plummeted you out of an airplane as you skydived. If anybody's done that, I think that's cool. Maybe it was a hospital, or maybe it was a nursing home. Maybe it's a place that just has some pretty bad memories associated with it. I used to be terrified of hospitals and nursing homes when I was a kid. I remember seeing family members as I would go into these rooms. They were hooked up to all sorts of machines and monitors, and when my grandma was dying of colon cancer, I remember going into the nursing home to visit her where she was, and it had an absolutely terrible smell to it. Over the years, I've become quite fond of nursing homes and hospitals, though, and yes, scary stuff does happen in both of those places, but so do a lot of good things that sometimes we tend to forget about, too. But one of the other places that I've been known to be scared of and at is the local cemetery. Being in the place of death does something to you at this emotional level. It brings you to your core, and it asks you to get in touch really quick with everything that matters to you. When I was in high school, I had the privilege of going to Rome, Italy with my Latin teacher and a group of students and some of her friends. We made this side excursion in Rome into the catacombs, which were the underground burying places of the dead that happened to be under churches there. So pretend there was a hole right here in the floor cut out, and you could go down and people were buried under the church. It was quite a sight to see, and as you wind your way through the underground tunnels that were full of rows and spaces where dead people once lay, even stacked up 3 and 4 high. It was eerie for me, it was creepy, and you could scare the pants off of someone just by coming up and brushing their clothing or touching their arm because it was so dark down there. When my mind came to me after about 10 minutes, I realized I was walking among the dead, and although I was in a group of people, I felt utterly alone. And surprise, surprise, dear sisters and brothers, that's where we are this morning. We're taken to the tombs. We're called to the place of death, the place, as we see from Luke's gospel story, where the crazies go. We're invited this morning to get out of the boat on the shore of the land of the Gerasenes, which is opposite of Galilee. Jesus has been doing work in ministry in Galilee, and that place is pretty familiar for him and his disciples. But the land of the Gerasenes is a foreign land. Read, the land of the Gentiles. Before the boat lands on shore, Jesus has just been with his disciples through this huge, massive storm. There's roaring wind and raging waves, and the boat starts to be filled with water and becomes alarming to the disciples. They awake Jesus, who happens to be sleeping through all of that, and he rebukes the wind and the waves, and everything calms right down. The disciples are afraid and they're amazed because Jesus controls the natural forces, the waves, the wind, and they actually obey him. They're beginning to learn, as I hope we are too, that being in Jesus' presence means that we have little to no control. And so they're still processing what Jesus has just done as the boat pulls ashore to the place that they set out for from Galilee, and they arrive in the Gentile country of the Gerasenes. They no sooner step out of the boat onto the land when a man of the city who has demons meets them. Luke tells us of some important details about the man in a couple of verses that follow. Luke says that for a long time he had been naked. He didn't live in the city, but he lived right there at the tombs. And when he saw Jesus, he falls down on his knees, and one of the demons cries out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." Now, somewhere along the line, Jesus commands the unclean spirits to come out of the man who has been seized by those spirits for quite some time. The demons do a number on the poor guy, and the people of the country keep him under guard and bound with chains and with shackles, which he would break and be driven by the demons into the wilderness, or as Luke says, into the wilds. Jesus asks this man for his name, And the man replies, "Legion, for there are many demons inside him." The demons beg Jesus not to send them into the abyss, not to send them wandering around with nowhere to go. You see, the tombs are a dangerous place to go, you know. You never know you never know what you're going to get or who you're going to meet in the tombs. It's a scary sight, and I'm sure the Gerasene people are scared by this man. But as creepy as this man is, with all the demons that have grabbed hold of him, I can't help but to also be sympathetic to him. I mean, first of all, he has no name. He's been possessed for so long that if he had a name to begin with, nobody knows it. The one identity that he does get is a creepy identity from the demons who take him captive. Legion is not a name as much as it represents a faction of 6,000 soldiers in the Roman army. The legion of the Roman army is many, just like these demons for the man are many. And the people of his town or this city have this weird ritual where they have to go keep chaining him up and binding him in the tombs in the place that's out of town, and the place that is one of the most lonely, dejected places around. But for the people of the town, this makes them safe. Knowing that he's bound makes them sleep a little bit better at night. This becomes their normal. And when Jesus goes and gives the demons permission to go into the pigs, those unclean animals for Jewish people, and they die in the lake, well, then Jesus has just gone and messed up their control and their order to their lives and their world. And so since we're in the tombs today, sisters and brothers, it begs us to ask the question, what's keeping us here? What demons are plaguing us? What demons are causing us to remain in chains? Because if we take a really good look in the mirror, we too can say that our name is Legion, and we are plagued and bound by so many things. Maybe it's a gambling addiction, or an addiction to food or sex or drugs or alcohol. Maybe it's our lust for power or prestige. Maybe our love of money is the demon that happens to be inside us. Or maybe it's our views on and perspectives on life and on other people. Maybe it's our propensity to want to eradicate anyone different from us, to kill people that we have so much hate for, like any number of the shootings that you see in our world, not the least of which was the shooting last week in Orlando. Maybe the demon is the demon of control and how we order our lives that make us better people than others. You know, we're the ones who have it in control. We're the ones who have it all figured out. They are the crazies. You can insert anything you'd like for the they in that sentence. People who are mentally ill, people who are depressed, people with dementia, people who are high or drunk, people of different nationalities, people who are homeless, people who are disabled, or people who have odd piercings and tattoos in places we think they shouldn't. The list goes on and on and on. And too often we say that if you can't look and behave exactly like us, then you don't belong here. You belong and deserve the chains. You deserve to stay in the tombs where we can control you and where you don't get in our way. Face it, friends, we're good at this way of living. Some might even say we've perfected it and our society encourages it. But guess who gets in our way? That's right, the man named Jesus who shows up in a boat and pulls up on the shore, who meets us at the tombs. Jesus is the one with power and authority, and he shows that today as he has power even over the Gentiles. Up until now, he's been in and with the Jewish folks. But today he shows his power in the Gentile world, the foreign world, and the foreign Gentile demons even recognize who he is and submit to his power. You see, Jesus relieves this man of his demons, and the demons are drowned in the lake once and for all. The man is restored to a normal self and is sitting clothed at the feet of Jesus when the whole town comes to see what happened after they've already heard the demons were drowned. And the people are literally terrified. just like we're afraid and terrified when Jesus shows up and interrupts the ways in which we justify ourselves and our lives by excluding others. Jesus breaks the bonds and releases the demons so that again all people, even foreigners and those who are different, are saved and made new. All of that is too much for us to handle sometimes, because Jesus offers anyone who is chained and bound in the place of death pure grace. You see, people who live in the tombs, for people like that, nothing matters anymore. They've been so out of touch with normal and the rest of the world that they flee from community. They live in isolation, hoping not to cause any more damage, all the while thrashing around and sometimes even hurting people and others who would help them. That is, until they've encountered Jesus and grace. That freely given love of God that casts out demons, that breaks chains and puts them in their right mind, ready to sit at the feet of Jesus and be a disciple and a follower. This man became that new person. He wanted to follow Jesus. He wanted to go with him, but Jesus says no. Jesus knows that we who are the church do our best work in the place of death. So Jesus says to him, you go back home and you declare how much God has done for you. And dear friends, like this man who was possessed with many demons, but who is now free, Jesus has freed us. He's broken the chains and he's called us to go from the tombs and to be a witness to what God has done for us in the places that we go in our daily lives. It doesn't mean that we can't or that we won't visit the tombs from time to time, but it does mean that because of him we're no longer shackled or possessed or even afraid of the tombs, because at the tombs God doesn't let the good news perish without witnesses. And we are those witnesses. We are the church, and we've got to do what Jesus asked the church to do. Amen.